In this video, I'll show you how I made 3 cabinets for my collection of Star Wars Black Series figures. I have a total of about 175 displayed figures, and I cut that back from around about 230 figures originally, so that I wanted to have every figure that I had on display in these cabinets. The cabinets I made with a couple of conditions that I wanted to try to make. I wanted to slim the collection down a little bit. I also wanted to have it in a completely dust-free environment. I wanted it to look professional. I wanted to have LED lights built into it, and I wanted to have the cabinet stick out from the wall as little as possible. There's 3 cabinets in total, and I'll run through all the details of how I made them. I originally had the design for the front done first, and once I had that, I made the cabinets dimensionally to fit the acrylic. I'll run through the acrylic details a little bit later in the video. But overall, the cabinets are about just under 2 meters tall by 900 mil wide, which is 77 inches by 35 inches. The depth of the cabinet in total is around 120 mil, with a backing of 90 mil, and then the front frame for the door of 30 mil. So it's about 4 3/4 inches in total off the wall. The backing piece is also made so that it hides behind where the acrylic is. It's set back from the edges of the acrylic. The timber I used was 90 mil by 30 mil, so it's quite heavy and needs to be supported by off the wall quite well. I assembled it, and I just used screws to fix all this in because it's all going to be painted, so just screwing it, fill all the holes, and you won't see any of that detail afterwards. It's made so that I can put a series of glass shelves in, and here I've rebaited all of the sides so that the glass just slides into those slots, and I've got those support bars running so there's a little bit more support for the glass shelves. Here the cabinets are all primed up, and it was really important that I get a really clean paint finish on them, so I put a lot of time into doing multiple coats of everything. I made both cabinets at the same time, so there's the 2 backs and then the 2 front frames, which are going to be attached to the doors. The colours of the frames, or the inside of the cabinets, I wanted to match against some of the card backs of some of the vintage collection figures that I had, and I picked 3 colours that you'll see in this video. One is the AT-ST driver card back, which is a blue. I picked a sort of a fuchsia colour from the Power Droid that I really like, and there's a green coming up later on as well. They're all displayed in one quite narrow room, and there's also on the other wall another smaller cabinet which is in yellow, and that's got some Kubrick collection figures in there. Once I'd painted all the insides, the next step was to try to work out how to hang it to the wall, and so to do that I'm going to show you how the French cleat system works. So there's a fair bit of weight in here, and I also paint the edges around, both half in the inside colour and half on the black on the outside colour, so that the interior colour doesn't seep through the gap where the door is, and also from the inside you can't see any of the black from the outside edges coming through. I made these over a couple of weekends pretty much. Once I had all the colours ready, I had all the framing ready to go to attach to the acrylic, and that's just screwed in from the front with special fixings that have a kind of nicer head than a screw head. So there's just a couple of joins that you see, it's hidden inside the black of the frame, the acrylic. So when you stand back, you really can't see them at all, how they're attached. It was just like a button screw. The French cleat is a aluminium, and I've got one on both on the top and the bottom. The top one's carrying most of the weight because the top one is going directly screwed into studs on the wall. So it's able to support quite a lot of weight in these cabinets. When I looked at the lighting, I originally tried a LED neon strip, which is I've got just laid out here just to sort of get an idea of how much it was going to illuminate it. In the end, when I installed it and I had them sitting up there for a month or two, the weight of the neon strip was just too much, and I had it attached right against the edging of where the acrylic is, so it was hard to get anything to really hold it in place there. So I gave up on that idea. I took them out and I ended up replacing it just with a standard LED, with RGB LED light strips, and I was way happier with that result. All the cabling that runs through to the light strip is hidden underneath. You can't see any of this when it's hanging on the wall, and it still allows you to open and close the door. So on the wall, I got my grid of where all the timber framing was using rare earth magnets, which you see they're just temporarily stuck on the wall, and that's just to find where I can actually screw into. The top cleat is the one holding most of the weight. The bottom French cleat is really just keeping it in alignment so that the whole thing is really clinging to the wall very tightly. So once I had the first one in, I just got my spacing, so the second one will just have a little gap before it starts, so they're kind of like nicely aligned on the wall. This room is like really only about 2 meters wide, so there's not a whole lot of space in there. When they're on the wall, I then started putting the glass shelves in. I had them cut by a local glass supplier, all to size to fit exactly the shelves that I wanted. And then started filling up the cabinets with all the figures. All the figures are actually grouped by movie. I had 2 different designs of the acrylic with the logo at the top. So the left hand, the sort of pinkish cabinet, has pretty much got prequel trilogy, it's got solo movie, it's got a range of sort of random TV series related figures, whereas the right hand cabinet with the Empire logo has got all of the original trilogy in date order of the movie releases. The next cabinet I made is a smaller one, and the green one here is pretty much just for Rogue One figures only. I made it vastly different because I just made the front rounded piece of paneling just in a MDF and cut that myself. The way that works is that it's not a door system, that's actually screwed on fixed, and there's an acrylic sliding front that drops in from the top under there's like a rebated area you see here. The acrylic sheet just drops in via the top. I've got a little piece of timber then screwed to that so you can like lift it as a bit of a handle. But once the figures are in there, you don't really have to sort of get to them very much at all. And then the front piece is just screwed onto the back. I temporarily put in some acrylic shelves there. I ended up replacing those with glass ones. So the 3 cabinets are now installed on the wall. There's some hinges on the side of the doors, which are, there's 2 on each door. And there's a latch on the other end. I've got 2 latches. It's hidden because of the recessed backing piece, so that you don't start seeing any of that at all. And it's very easy just to sort of like lift it up. You can get to the figures, rearrange them, put new ones in, whatever you need to do. Once they're all set and good to go, you don't really need to get to them though. Here you can see the doors opening. I've got the LED strips, as you can see, through around that whole inside frame, and there's an LED controller here on the side of each of them. I don't actually use that because I have the whole system connected into my Amazon smart device, and it's all set on a schedule. So the lights come on at like 7 o'clock every night and they turn off automatically at 10 o'clock. So I never actually have to touch the controller. The light is an RGB, and I have the lighting set to the same color as the painted backdrop. And at night they just sort of glow and looks really awesome. So here they are, all the figures are set. I have actually blue tacked them all so the things don't move and fall around. And I'm super happy with how the whole thing turned out. So the rest of the video is a tour of each of the shelf, one by one. I'll quickly talk about the acrylic front displays and how I did that. The idea with these is I wanted it to look professional, so I really wanted to have an acrylic front so that it was dust proof, but I wanted to have the front of it look as close to the packet of the card back of the original vintage figures. So I took a design where I'd replicated that and all the dimensions. I took that to a sign writer, and I sat down with the designer at the sign writer and came up with how to get the sort of the racing track stripes around the side with the metallic and light effect, as well as putting in the logo up to the very top. And again, I wanted the original Star Wars logo and 2 stripes on the left-hand cabinet, but I also wanted just the single stripe with the Empire logo on the right-hand cabinet. So I wanted them to look a little bit differently, but also to have a theme where both together, you obviously can tell that it's sort of a card back design. And so each of those were done. The acrylic is a 5mm thick acrylic, and there's a vinyl decal printed and stuck on the back of that. And that was all done by the sign writer. And when I had that, then I had my dimensions to then make my frame too, working out how to sort of steer clear of the curved edges so that the frame still sat back inside that. So the cabinet we've just seen is all the original trilogy movies, and now the sort of fuchsia colour one has got a really range of all odds and ends. I used to have a lot more prequel characters, but that's not my favourite series, so I sold off probably about 40 or 50 of those. I'll let the rest of the video run. Hope you've enjoyed the tour. Thanks for watching.